What's going on, everyone? It's Super Bowl Sunday. Welcome into the Pizza Buffet right here on Forward Progress, part of the Hammer Betting Network and powered by Pinnacle Sportsbook. I'm Rob Pizzola. I'm with you for the next hour or so, as long as you need me to be here, breaking down the Super Bowl. I'm going to start with side and total, going to get into some player props, and then I'll answer as many questions as you guys have in the chat as well. The goal here is to be as forward-looking as possible. Don't want to make this backward looking and like, this is what I bet. This is what I bet. No number no longer available. Trying to do as forward looking as possible here on the Pizza Buffet. As a reminder, I preach this every single week, but I cannot preach it enough for today. We're proudly sponsored by Pinnacle Sportsbook. I say proudly because they're a great sportsbook altogether. They don't limit bettors. Limits are right up front. You know exactly what you can bet before you place the bet, but they also offer some very good prices. If you're looking to bet the San Francisco 49ers, right? The Kansas City Chiefs right now, excuse me. Pinnacle has plus 120 on the board. It's by far the best price you're going to get anywhere. So if you have access to that in Canada and you want to bet the Chiefs today, make sure you do that because it's like a big difference. I mean, some of the sports books out there right now offering plus 105 on the game. You throw down $100, you might as well win 15 more on the Chiefs if they do win. So check out Pinnacle in Canada. Use code HAMMER if you're doing so, as it does help support us here on Forward Progress. Dealing with a little bit, I mean, it's that time of year. Anyone who tuned into the Wednesday props betting extravaganza, 5-hour special, coming down with something at that time. I'm kind of over it now, but still sore throat. Just bear with me over the course of today. One last reminder, as always, just feel the need to remind people of this. I know it can get tiresome at times because there's a lot of you out there that do employ proper bankroll management. Don't go, crazy essentially on these games. It's the Super Bowl. Everyone wants to bet them. A lot of what I'm going to tell you today is that there's probably not a lot of an edge to be found, especially on the main market. Like I without a doubt, you got sports books like Pinnacle that are taking 200K bets on the side in the main market. There's not much of an edge to be had there. With that said, it's the Super Bowl. We all want to bet it. Let's do it. Just do it within reason. Don't overextend yourself. Always bet within your limits. So just make sure you do that. Play as responsibly as you possibly can. No pre-P break needed today, Chris. A lot of familiar faces in the chat. Mike, Brian, Ryan, John, Ethan, Murray, Nathan. Good morning to everyone out there. As a reminder, you can get in the chat. Make sure you're subbed here on Forward Progress. Smash that like button down below. And let's get right into the game. So I'll bring up the main market here for San Francisco and KC, courtesy of betstamp, so we can take a look at where all the sports books are. Pinnacle, as I mentioned, best price anywhere at plus 120 right now by a mile. I'm going to talk about this a little bit because Pinnacle, known as a sharp sports book. Spread -2, some spots -1.5. Again, if you want to bet San Fran, do yourself a favor, find one of the 1.5s out there, shop around. Total is pretty much universally at 47.5 right now. All right. So those of you who've followed my content before know that I don't put much stock into public betting percentages ever. And I'll explain why. There's a lot of people today that will look at, where the public is betting, which is Kansas City right now, by the way. Kansas City being the public side. They are going to see the tweets from sportsbooks that say, we need San Francisco. They're going to see the tweets that are like, all the biggest bets were on San Francisco, the sharp bets, and so on and so forth. The challenge with that approach is it's not apples to apples. So I'm not suggesting that San Francisco can't cover or that they're not the right side or whatever. But the difference here, if we just take a look at the odds, right, is the sports book is booking at a different number than you have to bet it at. Okay? So to be clear, let's say I wanted to bet, and let's use a widely available price. I want to bet San Francisco in the game at minus 110 or minus 130, something like that. You have to understand that the sportsbook is booking the bet at a very different price. Okay? This is what the VIG is with a sportsbook, right? Most scenarios, it's pretty easy. I want to bet against something against the spread. It's minus 110. I got to put down 110 to win 100. Well, the sportsbook is putting down 100 to win 110 because they're on the opposite side of that action. They're getting plus 110. You're paying minus 110 to match their plus 110. This is not an apples to apples comparison. On top of that, there's plenty of Super Bowls where the public comes out on top. Happens all the time. Bengals Rams just a few years ago. Rams sharp side, Bengals public side, Bengals cover the spread in that game. Patriots Seahawks, where the Seahawks decided that they're going to throw the ball at the 1 yard line instead of run it in. Patriots win 28-24. Big public win that game. So it happens. I would suggest, and it's to each their own. You bet however you want to, but I would suggest ignoring that stuff going forwards. Generally speaking, it's my prerogative on it. I've been in the industry for a while. I've been on the other side of the counter. And now I do this as a living, as a bettor. But I would avoid that. I'll get into the bets that I do like today, but I'm going to start with the handicap of the game. Full disclosure, I'm holding a bad price on this game. So I'm watching Championship Sunday with my friends. And games go final. Opening line comes out. I typically am going to use Pinnacle right away because one, they'll give a higher limit on openers. And two, I'm generally going to get a better price. I see Chiefs plus 118. This is me not running numbers on the game or anything like that. My first thought in my head is that this is likely going to be the best price on the Chiefs that I'm going to see. I'm just going to take it now because I don't foresee myself having a big bet on the Super Bowl. I want something to root for. I think this is going to be a good price. Fast forward to 2 weeks later, it's not a good price. Plus 120 out there at Pinnacle instead of plus 118. Basically coin flipping. But as I've broken down the matchup, I'm fine with the bet. My number on the game shows very, very small value on the Kansas City Chiefs. Does that mean there is value? Probably not at this time. Probably the number is the number. But I'll give a full breakdown here. Gonna have to power through this morning. Got the coffee. I don't have the Benadryl, which is or Benylin. That's been working for me. Actually, coffee not too great for the sore throat. Okay, let's start with the San Fran offense. By the way, I mean, it's really late to be doing your handicapping anyways. Sumer Sports. You see Eric Eager out here on Forward Progress quite regularly. Check out sumersports.com. They put together a Super Bowl preview that's honestly extremely extensive, really good. If you're looking to kill time between now and the Super Bowl, spend 20, 30 minutes reading the whole thing. It's really good. Sumersports.com. You can download it for free. No obligation to pay any sort of money or anything like that. San Fran regular season. Number one team in rushing EPA, number one passing EPA. Just a really fluid, great offense for the majority of the season, especially when they were at full health with Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel in the lineup. Playoffs has been a different story. Could have lost to the Packers, could have lost to the Lions, struggled for large portions of those games offensively before getting it together. This, in theory, is a decent matchup for them. I'm very high on the Kansas City defense. But you look at what San Fran runs on offense, a lot of 11 personnel, a lot of 21 personnel. That's the number of running backs and the number of tight ends. So one running back, one tight end, two running backs, one tight end. And that's where KC has struggled the most this year to defend this type of personnel. Chiefs have a very good pass defense. They struggle in the running game. So naturally, I think here, Kansas City's going to have to play some heavy boxes, right? Baltimore did not try to, for whatever reason, Todd Monken, the OC for the Ravens, kind of like outsmarted himself in that game. He thought, yeah, the Chiefs will probably stack the line of scrimmage here, stack the box, try to stop the run. We're going to throw on them. And the Chiefs didn't do that, and the Ravens just kept throwing. The 49ers have had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. Their bread and butter, Kyle Shanahan, established the run some play action. I think that if the Chiefs play light boxes, they're going to get killed in the running game. They're dead last in the league in success rate when they play light boxes this year. They're 8th when they play heavy boxes. So now there's a trade-off. Put another man in the box, stop the run, and have our corners play one-on-one. That's challenging against San Fran because you have Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. But I do think that 49ers come out running. Chiefs would be best served to do that. The issue is San Fran's also a very good running team into heavy boxes. 48.4% success rate. Tops in the league. Second most explosive plays in the league. So this is going to be really interesting because it really comes down to execution. But San Fran does have that matchup advantage. You also look at where San Fran struggled this year, particularly Brock Purdy. The entire offense, really. Like I said, number one EPA-wise, the only defensive scheme that they go up against that's outside the top 10, where they performed outside the top 10 in terms of EPA. So the biggest struggling defense was cover 3 for San Fran. They played cover 3. They were 11th in EPA in the league. Everything else, top 5. KC runs the lowest rate of cover 3 in the entire league. A lot of cover 2, a lot of man looks. They mix it up, but they don't play a lot of cover 3. So as a football fan, I'm just really interested to see how the Chiefs defense is going to approach this game. Because I love Steve Spagnuolo as a coordinator. He does a lot of very good things, good scheming, good game plans. Will he blitz Purdy a lot? I don't know. But based off the way that these teams played throughout the regular season, San Fran has some matchup advantages they can work with. The one thing that Kansas City will probably take away is the screen game, passes in the flat. Chiefs D has some fast linebackers. They've been very good at this all year. Very good at defending screens, very good at defending passes in the flat. You look at the way San Fran's target share breaks down, it's really tight with their top 4 guys. Brandon Ayuk has the highest target share. He's going to get L'Jarius Sneed a lot in this game, who has basically shut down every single number 1 receiver that he's played this year. And the list is extensive, I should say, in terms of how good those receivers are. Deebo on the other side sees a lot of Trent McDuffie. McDuffie, one of the most improved players in the entire league this year. Wasn't targeted a lot either. Very good tackler. Only missed 11 tackles all season. Doesn't give up a lot of yards after catch. Tough sledding there. CMC, out of the backfield. Like I said, KCD, very good at defending screens and passes in the flat. It's George Kittle that's probably got the best matchup overall on the offense in the running game in addition. On the other side, KC's offense has improved in the playoffs for a number of reasons. One, the amount of offensive holding penalties that they had in the regular season is way down. 2, they've protected the ball. 3, Rashee Rice has emerged as a number 1 option for them. Marquez Valdes-Scantling has played well. Travis Kelce's returned to form. A lot of things have gone right for them. Now, the game against the Ravens, not super impressive offensively, but they did what they had to do to win the game. And that's kind of like the Chiefs right now this year. They get up to a lead. They try to milk the game. It reminds me of the Titans in like 2019, 2020, just running Derrick Henry a million times in the second half. The O-line is suspect. They were decent at limiting pressures this year. And then you have Mahomes, who's been good at like limiting sacks on top of the limited pressures. And that just makes it, tough to beat the Chiefs because you're not going to get a lot of negatives in the passing game unless it comes from a holding penalty, which are way down in the playoffs in terms of the way that they're called. Joe Thuney on the offensive line, out at guard. That's a big deal. Nick Allegretti going in there, substantial downgrade. San Fran's pressure rate is lower than you'd think for the D-line that they have. Part of that is that they were one of the three teams in the league that blitzed less than 20% this year. Again, very interesting to see what the DC is going to do here, Steve Wilks, because Kansas City had the fourth best EPA per play this season when they faced exactly 4 rushers. One of the issues with rushing 4, you don't get pressure. The quarterback eventually is going to find a way to beat the coverage, especially a guy like Mahomes. We saw it against the Ravens, right? So, do they blitz more? Do they give some more exotic looks? That'll be interesting to see. But if they rush 4 and they can't get home with 4, I think that's going to be a big problem here. San Fran plays a lot of zone coverage behind this 4-man rush. Mahomes picks apart zone coverage. He was much better against zone than man this season. Part of the reason why he doesn't have the receivers that can separate from man. But he's smart. He'll take his yardage 5-6 yards at a time. So that'll be interesting to see. Similar to San Fran, KC does throw a lot of screens. They throw a lot of flat routes. Dissimilarly, though, San Fran's D has not been as good as KC's against those route combos. They're pretty much league average against screens and flat routes. Something of note. I think a lot of this is also going to stem on if Kansas City can run the ball. One of the weird things about the Chiefs is that they're terrible at running the ball into light boxes. Dead last success rate in the league. 4th worst explosive plays. And you'd be like, that's really weird. Pacheco is like a bruiser of a running back. Could probably break some tackles. It hasn't manifested itself. The Chiefs would rather run into a heavy box. They do a lot of outside zone runs as well. That works for them. I really think that this is a very interesting game. Also, what we have to add to it at the end is just the performance in the playoffs and the level at what they are playing at right now. So I've consumed a ton of content this week to see people laying out their cases for both teams. I think Adam Chernoff made the best case for San Fran of anyone I've heard. A lot of it stems from the way that they were rated in the regular season relative to now. The issue that I have is like when you are modeling games, right? You are going to weigh the recent games more heavily. Just naturally, you're going to do that. And another thing about comparing regular season metrics to postseason is that it's not the same game. Like, yes, it's football. They're playing on a field and whatever. The rules are fundamentally the same. It's called very differently. The level of nerves and anxiety increases. I don't want to go into too much detail here because it's possibly an edge, but it's every sport is like this, right? You always have like that team that just can't get over the hump in the playoffs specifically because their style of play is not suited to the playoffs, which is different than the regular season. So really interested about that. Also, on top of that, I just have thought San Fran has been overrated for a long time now by the market, generally speaking. I remember back to early in the year, San Fran, Dallas. It was the Sunday night football game. 49ers just destroyed the Cowboys. I was on air for the first half here on Forward Progress. I watched the second half. It was a disaster. if you look at San Fran after those games, they're 5-9 against the spread as a team in 14 games after that Cowboys game. 5-9. If you look at their covers that they had, Jacksonville, a team that fell apart, wasn't as good as we thought they were. Seattle, a team that fell apart, wasn't as good as we thought they were. Philly, a team that fell apart, wasn't as good as they thought they were. And then Arizona and Washington, two terrible teams. Aside from that, they've underachieved against everyone else. So I do think that the market slightly overrates San Fran. I don't believe I have an edge at this time. I would only bet Kansas City in the game. In terms of the total, I would lean very slightly to the under, but I have no strong opinion there as well. It's a Super Bowl line. It's tight for a reason. I'm not saying don't bet it. You do whatever you want. We all want to enjoy the game. Like, we all want to have a rooting interest in the game. It's a little bit easier to do that with money down. But I do think that the way Kansas City and San Fran are playing now is closer, or have played in the playoffs, is closer to their true identity than the regular season numbers. You have an edge in quantifying nerve/anxiety. I wouldn't say an edge necessarily, but I've done some stuff on high leverage games and situations. I used to dismiss like clutch completely. I still kind of do. I think there's such thing as anti-clutch, but maybe not clutch. Maybe you can argue those are the exact same thing. But there is something in particular that has to do with experience across different sports. All right. In all seriousness, do you ever throw a little pizza money on exact scores? Absolutely. I am not immune to making a bad bet whatsoever. Not at all. I'm not like a robot that like, what. Sometimes you want to enjoy a game. If you don't think I'm going to bet Chiefs 28-17 today so that I can root with GRP to buy his SUV, I don't know what to tell you. That's going to be in my account. It's going to be a horrible bet. Painfully bad wager. Yet I will bet that. Okay. Do the 49ers have someone with the size and ability to kind of always cover Kelsey to slow down the Mahomes-Kelsey two-man game? So the 49ers will not put someone on Kelsey. They will play a lot of zone coverage around him and force Mahomes to throw it into tight windows. One thing that Kelsey is really good at and always has been in his career is finding holes in zones. He instinctively knows how to do that. But San Fran does have a really good linebacker core as well. Interesting matchup. I think the Kelsey props are kind of priced in the right spot. I think the Kelsey props are kind of right in the right spot. Player props for the game. Let's go. I'll go through player by player. Now, before I do, again, if you have money in one sportsbook today, I can't help you. You're betting into a hold that, frankly, is just very difficult to overcome, especially when we've been knocking these numbers in place for a couple weeks. What I will do is try to identify some good prices, maybe some target prices for people. But by now, I'm not saying go put your money into 30 different sports books or whatever, but try to give yourself a chance to at least shop around. What do we do with the other leg of our teaser? You don't do anything with it. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't play the total in the teaser. I wouldn't keep it open until next season. Just dead money in your account. I'd say not play the teaser. Good question from JC. Is it worth waiting for Kelsey and McCaffrey unders, or is this the top of the market? I can never tell you exactly what the top of the market is going to be. If you're trying to time the exact top or the exact bottom, you're going to go crazy over time. It's no different than if you trade stocks or crypto or whatever. You just have to get yourself a good price. On game day, now that we're at game day, your opportunity to bet overs, it's still there. You can bet overs if you want, but you kind of missed the boat, right? You missed the last 2 weeks we had, or week and a half since props have been posted to start betting those overs. Now that everybody has bet those overs, and we've heard people talk about this before, bookmakers, bettors, everyone, naturally, people who are betting the Super Bowl every year are going to gravitate towards overs. It's a lot of recreational bettors. So you bet overs early, you bet unders late. That's what you want to do today. It sucks. I get it. No one wants to root for unders. But if we're talking about making money on the Super Bowl, that's where we're going with it. Going to take a look at custom prop screen I have here really quickly, just to talk through some potential bets for the game. So we touched on this. This was on the live stream, and this really got bet into place. Brock Purdy, let's see where we're at with pass attempts right now. Let's see where we got. If we got an, and we're a little bit too steep now on the pass attempts. It's unfortunate. That one moved a little bit out of place. Again, I don't want to recommend bets that I wouldn't take right now, but that was one that I think was pretty widely liked by people out there. If you do want to bet an over, again, you do a lot of line shopping, and you can leverage betstamp as a tool to do this, by the way. All the player props, compare from all the sports books and whatever. There is an off-market Brock Purdy rush yards over, which I saw about a little bit before coming on air. But we have like an 11.5 at minus 110. And when you consider that, FD here, a pretty sharp props outlet is a full yard higher. Not a bad bet at all. That's kind of the stuff that I'd be looking at today, is moving across the board, seeing, what's available here, what's a good option. I still think similarly, I gave my case for Debo, but we got a 4.5. I mean, Pinnacle's a good price, plus 114, but we also got like some plus 125s on Debo under. And I know a lot of people are gravitating towards Debo in this game because the thought is, Brandon Ayuk's going to get L'Jarius Sneed. So a lot of the targets are going to have to go to Debo. I still think that he's overvalued in market. I think this is a tough matchup for both wide receivers. Like instinctively, my thoughts are Ayuk under, Debo under, Kittle over, and McCaffrey maybe over in rushing and under in passing, or just something like that. That's how I think the 49ers will break down, personally. But that's a tough one. I do like a long shot here. I do like a long shot, man, that I think is worth a sprinkle. So if we go to Elijah Mitchell, some books have receiving yards on him. Yeah. You can get like 5-1 on Elijah Mitchell over a half receiving yard. Now, granted, like he's not going to see the field a ton, but I do think there's going to be a heavy workload out of the backfield for running backs. Mid-season, when Mitchell was in, the packages a lot more, he was seeing anywhere between 7 and 17 snaps a game. I think at this price, anything 5-1 or higher, decent shot on Elijah Mitchell to be over there. We got a discrepancy on Kittle yardage. Now, again, generally speaking, I don't think I would take overs that much on game day, but you do have some books with like the Canby back end that are still offering 47.5 on George Kittle. And you got a plus money under 50.5 on Pinnacle. That sets up a possible middle. Not necessarily sure that it's worth it, but both of those are kind of off market. So you like pick your poison, Kittle over or at the 47.5 or under at 50.5 plus money. Personally, I'd prefer the over 47.5 because I do think Kittle has a good matchup advantage, but that's one as well. The most interesting one for me to break down today, Jerick McKinnon got activated off IR yesterday, posted to his Instagram. I'm not sure what his involvement in the game is going to be. But Jerick McKinnon is a good pass catcher. This should affect, in some way, Isaiah Pacheco receiving yards, which I liked to the over originally, but probably not now. But it's going to have an impact on Clyde Edwards-Helaire if he plays as well. Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the receiving game, 5.5 yards right now. We have a 10.5 as well, which actually exists right now, minus 150. Wait till closer to the game. If McKinnon is in, your immediate reaction is going to be to bet Edwards-Helaire and possibly Pacheco under in receiving yards. But Edwards-Helaire definitely is the option. Other stuff that we could potentially take a look at right now. Justin Watson, we got, I think anything on under 1.5 catches up to 135 is good. So we got 134 Pinnacle. We got a 125 here as well. Again, shop around, good prices. A little bit too much for my liking on Justin Watson to catch a couple balls in the game, especially when you consider the spread is close. Not saying we can't have a blowout, but likelihood of blowout relatively, I don't want to say even relatively small, but you know what I'm getting at. You know what I'm getting at there. If you do like the 49ers in the game, I would shop for Patrick Mahomes under 1.5 touchdown passes, which if you can find plus 135 or better, there's some plus 140s out there right now. I would take that. Again, if that's correlated to, it's not, I mean, this could happen if Kansas City wins the game, but if you like San Fran in the game, that's another way to play it and get like a decent payday on it, so to speak. Let's see where Travis Kelce ended up here and if Pinnacle still got that price. Yeah, Pinnacle's got a great price on under on Kelce at plus 129 as well. Touchdown market, which I know everybody like wants to bet these touchdowns all time. Again, same thing, right? Probably not going to find great bets one way or another, but we can find something. Generally speaking, though, you got to have access to multiple books because the VIG on these is so high that, you know, it's just tough to overcome the VIG. Kyle Juszczyk, I price him at plus 843 to get a touchdown. I've seen multiple books that are higher than that. We got a plus 1,000. We got a plus 900 out there. Pretty widely available plus 900. I think that's a good bet on Juszczyk. A little bit more heavily involved in the games that are do or die type of situation. In fact, in the first TD market, I think there's some 50 to 1s out there, if I remember correctly. Yeah. At least a widely available 50 to 1, 47 to 1. I mean, I don't hate that at all. That type of bet. Another one for the Chiefs. So the Chiefs are predominantly running like 3 wide receivers on high snap counts. Rashee Rice, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Justin Watson. The number 4 has been Richie James. I think he's very underpriced in the touchdown market as well. First TDs are like 80 to 1. Yeah, you got some 80 to 1s on Richie James. Those are like auto bet, in my opinion. I think fair value is in the 60 to 1 range. And the same for anytime touchdowns, where you can get 10 to 14 to 1, 16 to 1. Like these are bad prices, in my opinion. Bad prices on Richie James, who's going to see like, I don't know, 15 to 20 snaps in the game. More than enough to justify this price. Way more than enough to justify this price. Also, I think like a really interesting one could be Blake Bell. just because the Chiefs have started to introduce a lot more 3 tight end sets in the playoffs, especially with issues on their offensive line. I could see them going heavy. I mean, this is a dart, right? Like absolute long shot, but you could do much worse than 40-1, 36-1 on a team that's starting to employ more 3 tight end sets. First TD should be in 150-1 range. Yeah, 175, 150. These are kind of the targets that I would have. You had to look for first TD against the Ravens. Also, like if you're buying into when Kelsey's on the field, they're going to focus on him a little bit more. That does open things up for Noah Gray and Blake Bell. The only issue, I don't mind the Noah Gray stuff. The only issue is that Noah Gray has been bet out quite a bit relative to where he was. So those are kind of my looks. I'm not a guy like, obviously Christian McCaffrey can score a touchdown. Obviously Travis Kelce, obviously Isaiah Pacheco, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. I'm not a top of the board guy because you typically just don't get that price, the price that you're going to need. And there's not as much distribution in the market on these guys in terms of the prices that are available. Right? So that's why I prefer to go to these long shots. I mean, I don't want to do some shameless self-promotion here, but just looking at like props that we had on Forward Progress this year, if I go to Primetime NFL where we track all of our bets, I mean, we turn a decent ROI right before games just betting, and like the history, like look at the record. It's terrible, but there was, some pretty big cashes over the course of here on, David Moore, 14-1 touchdown, Trey Palmer in the same game, 6-1 touchdown, right? Like this to me is a better way if you can deal Dawson Knox plus 550. If you can deal with Ronnie Bell, I remember this game very, very, the Ravens game. Yeah. Small win, but like at 9-1. And I'm not saying that these are going to they're not going to happen as regularly. But because you're cutting out a lot of the VIG by price shopping them, you end up with some decent bets. Where else could we go here? So Isaiah Pacheco long reception, 10.5 right now. Again, one book off market in terms of their underprice. But when you consider that his receiving yardage total is 17.5, and you potentially have the likelihood of McKinnon suiting up, and you got under 10.5 minus 110, to me, that's a play that works. I don't think this is a Jawan Jennings game at all. 14.5's in market there. Don't mind the under whatsoever. And that's kind of it right now. Makes a lot of sense. I'll answer a lot of questions here. For anyone that has any over the course of the day or the rest of the show, they have any props that they've played or looking to play. Sky Moore first TD on KC. George, I like George Kittle in this matchup. If I was still going to bet like a receiver over, like I mentioned when I brought him up, you can find those 47.5s on Kittle. I would bet that. Does anyone else have any waste management open sweats? I don't. My biggest hit ever in life was at the Waste Management Open. It was the year that Nick Foles beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl and Gary Woodland won at 80-1. That was the biggest cash I've ever had. Holds a special place in my heart, definitely. Oh, yes, this is a good one, actually. McCaffrey under 129.5. I like this one. Let me see what the current pricing is at right now before I can advocate for it. But it was something that I was looking at this morning. Yeah, we got some 130.5s there. Good. I like that bet. My fare is lower than this. Juszczyk has killed the Chiefs the last 3 times they've played. I think he'll be heavily involved today. He gets a lot of snaps. He's on the field. They utilize him a lot more in the passing game, in high leverage games, for sure. This being the highest leverage game. What's your high variance, longer shot play for props sides? One that I like is the game to be tied at the half. It's not offered everywhere, but you can get that anywhere in the 10-1 to 12-1 range. I wouldn't play much worse than that. But we do have 2 conservative coaches here. And that leads to, even a penalty on an extra point. These teams are probably not going for 2 with the coaching staffs that they have in that situation. Hitman did a good job breaking this down this week in terms of total players to catch a pass. I don't think that there's much of an edge here, honestly. The 13.5s, the under is like heavy plus money. The 14.5s are juiced to the under. I looked at this market. There's nothing. Nothing there. Sorry, Robert. I cannot price this for you in real time. I did not look at this prop this week, nor did I price it. I could have, I guess, but I did not, unfortunately. Apologies on that. Any betting strategies right before the game? Yeah, I mean, but like this is not foreign to this game whatsoever. It's like the last half hour leading up to the game is just where you should basically be shopping prices and picking off whatever is not right. This is the Super Bowl. It's pretty highly efficient. Even the props bet off-market prices. I am rooting for this. I did not want to give it out on the show today. Whatever. I'll be the asshat that loses on an extra point, on a field goal that hits the upright again. But I think it's a good price. I do not like Purdy no interception at plus 115. I also don't like the Mahomes no interception that a lot of people have been advocating for this week either. I'm a little bit priced towards the yes on both quarterbacks, but in particular, I'm priced closer to a play on Purdy, yes. Over 3.5 Chiefs to get a rushing attempt like that. It's pretty heavy juice. Makes sense. Over 8.5 players to get a rushing attempt in the game, plus 150. I'm going to be pricing this one in my head, but I don't know about that latter one. Like if you get on the spot said you get plus 150 on over 8.5, I'm not running anything, but I would say I need a bigger price than that, personally. I wish it wasn't, but unfortunately, God, man, that field goal hitting the upright last year, sickening. Just an absolutely sickening play. Great price. Listen, not everyone wants to lay big juice. I'm not suggesting you have to. I'm in the boat of if I think it's a large edge and it's a big price, I'll do that. I mean, I do it every day. I literally do it every day. I bet hockey props. I'll take players not to score a goal at like minus 1,000. It's part of my daily routine, so maybe I'm a little bit more immune to, or numb, I would say, to the swings of that stuff. But if you have a prop that has a implied probability of 85% and you make it 95%, I bet that, personally. I bet that. Like the vid. Thank you, Chris. Smash that like button down below if you haven't already. Opinion on a team to score 3 unanswered times. Lots of people look at this market and they often think it's just really mispriced because the yes is often favored by a heavy amount. And if you just run like historical analysis on NFL games, there's a reason that it happens. But a lot of people forget about the half as well, where you could easily have scores going into the half. That team gets the ball in the second half. I don't like anything here. I think that this is a very easy prop to price. And I think that there's nothing there to be had. No, I would say this is a bad bet at this point. With McKinnon active, you probably want to get off of like any alt Pacheco overs. Thoughts on MVS overs? So if I was going to play MVS overs, I would play alternate overs because he's a very boomer bust type of player. The downfield shots for KC will come for MVS. So like let's take a real quick look here at what his receiving yardage total is right now. But 19.5, like you might as well just play over 29.5, over 39.5, whatever alts you can find at a bigger number. Because if he catches a ball, it's likely to be a deep shot. To me, like of all the players in this game, you get lots of games where he ends up with 0, and you get some games where he ends up with 100 yards. If you want to get real sick with the same game parlays, MVS under 1.5 catches and over yards. But you don't have to do that. That's just if you want to get real sick. This is not a bad bet at all. This is not a bad bet at all. When you think about who's going to get targeted furthest down the field in this game, it's probably him. Like, if I had to bet longest reception props, I would take Ayuk under, I'd take Debo under, but I bet MVS over. And because of that, I mean, that's a good number. Just the problem is he's got to catch the ball. It's got to not bounce off his hands and drop. I'm not sure that this is a good bet anymore. I used to price these. It's all subjective, by the way, in the pricing, but they used to offer more than this. I mean, you're going to see a trick play or two. It's two creative coaches. It's just, what does that trick play look like? And does it involve someone else throwing a pass? Could be a flea flicker. It could just be like some end arounds and stuff like that. Little shovel passes and all these things these teams do. I've watched enough 49ers games this year to know they'll give up a deep ball to MVS. It does feel that way. It does feel that way. Okay. I've exhausted as much as I possibly have could today. Throat is killing me. Think I got to as many questions as humanly possible for here and shared my thoughts on the game. Honestly, I have my KC bet, but like I just want to see a close game. If it's not going to be a close game, give me 28-17 Chiefs. Just for the story. Just for GRP. Just for GRP. Really, if I had to pick the final score, I'd say I think the Chiefs are going to win the game 24-20. If I had to. Like, here's the thing. Like, howdy. This is a great bet. Pick 6, no, minus 1,000. So if we take minus 1,000, convert it to a percentage, 90.9%. It's higher than that. I'll tell you that. Vast majority of people don't want to lay this price. I'm not saying you have to go out and lay it. Like, it's going to ruin your Super Bowl if there's a pick 6 and you're not going to sleep tonight, then don't bet it. It's the same as the people who bet no safety back in the day, right? Those were great bets, probability-wise. But then a safety happens in the Super Bowl and you're like, there goes your bankroll. See you later. So it's like, to each their own. Whatever your betting style is. But game to be tied after, I don't know what this is. Oh, game to be tied again after 0 at minus 128. Again, I'm just, there's no mathematical calculation here. Yeah, I would say like it's a slight favorite. 55% for another tie. Yeah. All right. That's going to be it. One thing, though. 2 shows live tomorrow. I have a live Circles Off, 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's over on the Circles Off YouTube channel. Me and Johnny recapping the Super Bowl, the day that was, our entire process going into the Super Bowl after the fact. Join us. 1 o'clock on the Circles Off channel. 2 o'clock, right back here on Forward Progress. G-Stack George, Cleve TA, Suma, recapping the Super Bowl that was. Start looking ahead. I know it's super early, but there's going to be lines on Super Bowl for next year. Guys will give their thoughts on what's coming up in the offseason. Make sure you check that out. I see more stuff going on right now. Any thoughts on... I've played some sacks unders in this game. I didn't want to talk too much about it because the prices have moved a lot. And it's not like pat myself on the back, I got great numbers. But you have to have a limit where you're going to stop. I think we're kind of at that limit now. But I do like the sacks in the game under. I did play Nick Bosa under a half sack as well. You do have two quarterbacks who are good at, Mahomes is the GOAT at avoiding pressure. Purdy gives the 49, people want to rag on Purdy and say anyone could do what he does. Well, in this offense, Kyle Shanahan hasn't had the quarterback that has this mobility, that can avoid pressure, make a play down the field if he has to. So I like that. 1 o'clock, Circles Off tomorrow. 2 o'clock, Forward Progress. Make sure you smash that like button down below. Make sure you sub here on Forward Progress. It goes a long way. Make sure you check out Pinnacle Sportsbook in Canada. Use code HAMMER. Great book. Been playing at them for a long time. There's a reason they've been in business for 25 years. Thank you to all the nails who tuned into Forward Progress this season. We got tons of off-season content coming as well. Leading up to draft, I'll be doing the On the Clock mock draft series, same as I did last year, which generated a bunch of views and a lot of fan bases who absolutely hated me for not picking the players that they wanted for their teams. That should be fun. We're going to have weekly content surrounding all the news in the NFL. So stay locked here for the offseason. And best of luck to everyone on the Super Bowl. Hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully you come out on top. Hopefully you're not opposite too many of my bets. But hope you have a good day. Stay safe. Don't drink and drive. Bet responsibly. Do what you got to do to enjoy the game. And live to tell another day. This has been the final pizza buffet of the season right here on Forward Progress, powered by Pinnacle, part of the Hammer Betting Network. Enjoy the game today, everyone. Thank you for tuning in this year. Peace out.